Hi, everybody. This is Joey Walsh. For my investigation, I wanted to look into how fast roller coasters tend to be. So, first and foremost, the first question we are going to investigate was, are there any differences between the top speed of older, newer, or more recent roller coasters? So, the first thing I did was in my data, I want to scroll over to all of my age groups. So I first dragged my age groups onto my graph. So I had older, recent, and newer roller coasters. Next, I wanted to talk about their high speeds. So their high speeds, I would take their top speed and I dragged it onto my y-axis. By doing so, I am now able to see all of my different speeds for all the older, recent, and newer roller coasters. What I'm able to see here is that as the years go on, it seems to be that the average speed tends to get a little higher. So with the newest roller coasters, you have an outlier, which happens to be Dragster at Cedar Point, Top Thrill Dragster, which absolutely, I love that roller coaster. I actually love going to Cedar Point. I try to go there every year, every other year or so. So it's definitely one of my favorite roller coaster parks. But anyway, it's as the years go on, the top speed does tend to maybe get a little faster. I'm thinking this might be be due to the maybe just the nature of the technology might be getting a little faster. The competition might be getting a little stiffer. So maybe roller coasters tend to think they have to step up their game a little. So that's the first thing I was able to investigate here. Next, it asked me, does the type of material make a difference in speed? So in my graph, I came across the type of ride, which is either steel or wooden. So I clicked that and I actually dragged it onto my graph. By doing so, I started to color code my data. Green stands for steel and the pink stands for wooden. Typically, with the older roller coasters, I didn't really see much of a difference over here. The wooden roller coasters actually happened to be the fastest rides. Over here, you actually had 3 roller coasters. But as the years went on, I definitely started to see a shift where in the recent and the newer roller coasters, a lot of the steel roller coasters happened to be the ones that had the higher speed. I found it pretty fascinating that in the recent roller coasters over here, the wooden roller coasters were all pretty much around the same height. The same speed. And if you look compared to the older roller coasters, they were all pretty much the same top speed. So what I pretty much began to conclude here is that the technology for the wooden roller coasters, they really haven't expanded over the years. They pretty much all look like they were staying the same. However, when you looked at the steel roller coasters for the older, a lot more of the newer roller coasters started to become a higher speed. And then as you look to the newer roller coasters, they got to be faster and faster. And eventually the one roller coaster got to about 120 miles per hour. And finally, we were asked if you're going to ride a roller coaster that was built before 1980, what would you expect for a top typical speed? So the before 1980 is the older category. So if I come over into my graph and I look I'm going to choose my mean and my median. The reason I like to choose both of these is the mean typically will sometimes be skewed if there's any outliers. There's not many outliers. We really have 2 outliers in the data. But the median I like to choose just sometimes that gives me a good average. If I was before 1980, I would assume my ride would be around 50 miles per hour, right? The mean and median are pretty much the same here, about 50 miles per hour. But if I was going to ride a newer roller coaster, I would jump over to the newest section, and I would assume maybe it's going to be about 66 miles per hour. Definitely that 66 miles per hour is definitely a big jump from the 50 miles per hour. Yeah, it's about a 16 miles per hour on average jump. But if you look at the data as they go up higher, a lot of the rides are starting to get a lot faster. And I think that is definitely a trend you're going to start seeing to continue in the future.